What happens when a private family dispute turns into a public courtroom battle filled with screenshots, location data, and competing claims? That's exactly what's unfolding between Dancing with the Stars professional Gleb Savchenko and his ex-wife, Elena Samedinova. What began as a custody disagreement has now escalated into a high-profile legal fight, with both sides presenting dramatically different versions of the same story, and the stakes couldn't be higher. According to newly filed court documents, Gleb claims he now has evidence to support his allegations in the ongoing custody dispute over their daughters, Olivia and Zlata. The reported evidence includes screenshots, phone location information, and WhatsApp messages that he says show Elena traveled to Moscow with their younger daughter without his knowledge or consent. Gleb argues that he was never informed about the trip in advance and says he would have objected had he known. Those claims have immediately placed the alleged Moscow visit at the center of an already complicated legal battle. But that's only one side of the story. Elena has strongly pushed back against Gleb's allegations, arguing that the legal situation is far more complex than it appears. She maintains that Hong Kong, not California, is their daughter's legal home and has accused Gleb of taking actions that she believes improperly affected the custody proceedings. With both parents standing firmly behind their own accounts, the case has quickly become one of the most closely watched celebrity family disputes in recent weeks. As new court filings continue to emerge, fans have found themselves divided over what the reported evidence actually proves. Do the screenshots strengthen Gleb's position, or will the court ultimately see the situation differently? It's a question that won't be answered by headlines or social media speculation alone. The final decision will rest with the legal process, and both sides are preparing to make their case. So what exactly does Gleb claim his evidence shows? Why has the reported Moscow trip become such a critical issue? And how did this custody battle grow into an international legal dispute involving multiple countries? Let's break down everything that's happened so far. But before this custody dispute expanded into an international legal battle, it took a dramatic turn when Gleb Savchenko claimed he had something that could strengthen his case, what he describes as hard evidence. In newly filed court documents, the Dancing with the Stars professional argues that he isn't relying solely on allegations or personal accounts. Instead, he says he has screenshots and digital records that back up his version of events. According to the court filing reported by TMZ, Gleb submitted several screenshots that he believes support his emergency custody request. One of the reported images allegedly shows a phone location placing Elena Samedinova in Moscow. Another reportedly captures a WhatsApp conversation between Elena and Gleb's legal team, in which she allegedly states that she traveled to Russia to attend a family funeral. Gleb claims these messages also indicate that their younger daughter, Zlata, was with her during the trip. For Gleb, those screenshots are central to his argument. In his declaration, he reportedly states that he never gave permission for Zlata to travel to Russia and wasn't informed about the trip before it happened. He claims that if he had known in advance, he would have objected to his daughter traveling there. According to his filing, he believes major decisions involving their children should be made jointly, and he argues that this trip happened without his knowledge or agreement. Another significant part of Gleb's argument concerns the destination itself. In the court documents, he reportedly describes Russia as a country affected by ongoing conflict and says that fact contributed to his concerns about the trip. His filing suggests that his objection wasn't simply about travel. It was also about what he viewed as potential safety issues and the importance of both parents participating in major decisions involving their children. It's important to remember, however, that these claims come from Gleb's court filing and represent his position in the ongoing legal dispute. Filing evidence with the court does not automatically establish that every allegation has been proven. The purpose of the legal process is to allow both parties to present their evidence and arguments before a judge reaches any conclusions. Even so, Gleb's reported screenshots have become one of the biggest talking points in the case. Supporters argue that digital records can provide valuable context, while others point out that individual pieces of evidence are only part of a much larger legal picture. And as more details emerged, it became clear that the reported Moscow trip was only one chapter in a custody battle that now stretches far beyond a single journey. But while Gleb's screenshots have captured most of the headlines, the real focus of this legal dispute is the trip to Moscow itself. According to Gleb's court filing, that journey wasn't simply another family vacation. It was a major decision involving their younger daughter, Zlata, that he says happened without his knowledge or approval. Those allegations have now become one of the central issues the court will eventually have to examine. According to documents reported by TMZ, Gleb claims he first learned about the trip only after it had already taken place. He alleges that Elena Samardinova traveled to Moscow with Zlata and never sought his consent beforehand. In his declaration, Gleb reportedly states that if he had known about the plans, he would have objected to his daughter traveling there. He argues that important decisions involving their children should be made jointly, especially when international travel is involved. To support that claim, Gleb reportedly submitted what he describes as digital evidence. One screenshot allegedly shows a phone location indicating Elena was in Moscow, while another reportedly contains a WhatsApp conversation with his legal team in which Elena allegedly mentions traveling to Russia for a family funeral. According to Gleb, those messages also suggest that Zlata accompanied her on the trip. He believes those records support his position that the journey occurred without his authorization. Another key part of Gleb's filing concerns why he says he would have opposed the trip. According to the documents, he describes Russia as a country affected by ongoing conflict and claims he had serious concerns about his daughter's safety. He argues that, given those circumstances, he should have been consulted before any travel plans were finalized. In his view, the issue isn't only about where the trip took place. It's about what he says was a lack of shared decision-making between parents. It's important to remember that these are allegations contained in Gleb's court filings and represent a side of the dispute. Court filings allow each party to present their claims and supporting evidence, but they do not by themselves establish that those claims have been proven. Elena has disputed key aspects of the broader custody case, and the court will ultimately determine how much weight to give each side's evidence after hearing from both parties. What makes this situation even more complicated is that the Moscow trip is only one piece of a much larger international custody dispute. According to Gleb, the disagreement extends far beyond Russia and now involves questions about where their daughters have been living, which country's court should oversee the case, and whether international legal agreements should apply. Those issues have transformed what might have been a disagreement over one trip into a complex legal battle spanning multiple countries, and that's where the case takes another dramatic turn. But as serious as a disagreement over the reported Moscow trip may be, it's only one part of a much larger legal battle. The real dispute now stretches across multiple countries and legal systems, making this far more complex than an ordinary celebrity custody case. At the heart of the conflict is a fundamental question. Which country has the legal authority to decide where Gleb Savchenko and Elena Samardinova's daughters should live? According to Gleb's court filings, he believes the custody dispute requires immediate action. As previously reported by TMZ, Gleb claims that Elena has kept their daughters in Hong Kong since 2023, preventing him from exercising the parental rights he believes he is entitled to. Because of those allegations, he has asked the court for emergency intervention, arguing that the situation cannot wait for the normal pace of legal proceedings. One of the most significant legal steps Gleb says he has taken is filing a Hague Convention petition. The Hague Convention is an international legal agreement designed to help resolve certain cross-border child custody disputes. According to Gleb's filing, he is seeking the return of his younger daughter, Zlata, through that international legal process. However, filing a Hague petition does not automatically determine the outcome of a custody case. It simply begins a separate legal process that considers issues involving international parental disputes under the treaty's framework. At the same time, Gleb is also asking the California court for emergency relief involving his older daughter, Olivia. According to the reported court documents, he has requested temporary sole legal custody and temporary sole physical custody of the 15-year-old, while the broader custody issues continue to be addressed. His filing reportedly also asks that Elena not receive visitation during that temporary period if the request is granted. These are significant requests, reflecting just how serious Gleb believes the current situation has become. The legal battle has therefore expanded well beyond one reported international trip. It now involves questions about where the children have been living, which courts have jurisdiction, and how international custody laws should be applied. Cases involving multiple countries are often far more complicated than domestic custody disputes because judges must consider not only local family law, but also international legal agreements and competing jurisdictional claims. It's also important to emphasize that these requests remain exactly that, requests. Filing for emergency custody or submitting a Hague Convention petition does not mean the court has agreed with Gleb's position. Judges will review evidence from both parents before making any decisions, and no final ruling has been reached. And while Gleb believes the law supports his arguments, Elena Samadinova has presented a very different version of events. According to her, the custody dispute should be handled in Hong Kong, not California, and she strongly disputes several of Gleb's claims. Her response has added another major twist to an already complicated international legal battle. But as Gleb Savchenko continued presenting his evidence and legal arguments, Elena Samadinova made it clear that she sees the situation very differently. Rather than accepting Gleb's version of events, she has challenged both his allegations and the legal strategy behind his emergency custody request. Her response has turned what already appeared to be a complicated case into a dispute with two completely opposing narratives. According to statements she provided to TMZ, Elena argues that Hong Kong, not California, is the legal home of their daughter, Olivia. From her perspective, the custody matter should be decided under the appropriate legal process in the jurisdiction where Olivia has been living. That position directly conflicts with Gleb's efforts to seek emergency orders through the California court, creating one of the central legal questions that judges will eventually have to resolve. Elena also made a serious allegation of her own. She claims that Gleb wrongfully kept Olivia in California by canceling her return flight, an action she believes disrupted the normal custody arrangement. According to her statement, Gleb's emergency filing is a rushed attempt to bypass proper laws. She has asked the court to halt any temporary custody orders and allow additional time so her legal team can present what she describes as Olivia's permanent records through the proper legal channels. Those comments illustrate just how far apart the two sides remain. While Gleb argues that emergency intervention is necessary to protect his parental rights and address concerns involving international travel, Elena contends that the legal process should follow established jurisdictional rules and that the court should have access to a more complete picture before making any temporary decisions. Each parent believes the law supports their position, leaving the court with the difficult task of evaluating competing claims and evidence. It's important to remember that these are allegations and legal arguments presented by each side during an ongoing custody dispute. Neither Gleb's claims nor Elena's responses have been fully tested in court, and no judge has issued a final ruling on the merits of the case. As with any active legal proceeding, the outcome will depend on the evidence presented, applicable law, and the court's assessment of what serves the children's best interests. For now, both sides remain firmly committed to their positions, and neither appears willing to back down. With mediation and future hearings already scheduled, the legal battle is far from over. Meanwhile, outside the courtroom, the case has sparked intense discussion online, where fans and followers have begun debating which side they believe has the stronger argument, even though the legal process has yet to reach its conclusion. But while the legal battle continues in court, the court of public opinion has already begun reaching its own conclusions. As reports about Gleb Savchenko's emergency custody filing, the alleged Moscow trip, and the international dispute over Hong Kong jurisdiction spread across entertainment news outlets, social media quickly became a battleground of competing opinions. Some fans have rallied behind Gleb, arguing that his reported screenshots, location data, and concerns about international travel deserve serious attention. Supporters say that if a parent genuinely did not know about major travel plans involving their child, it would naturally raise questions about communication and shared decision-making. Many online users have pointed to Gleb's decision to file court documents and pursue legal channels as evidence that he wants the dispute resolved through the proper process. Others, however, have expressed support for Elena Samadinova, emphasizing her claim that Hong Kong is their daughter's legal home and that the custody matter should be handled in the appropriate jurisdiction. Some fans believe her argument about following established legal procedures is important and have urged people not to assume that court filings automatically prove the allegations they contain. As often happens with high-profile celebrity disputes, social media has become filled with theories emotional reactions, and strong opinions. Some users have attempted to analyze the reported screenshots and public statements as if they already reveal the full story, while others have cautioned against drawing conclusions from media reports alone. The reality is that much of the evidence discussed publicly comes from legal filings and statements to the press, which represent the positions of the people involved rather than established findings of fact. The case has also sparked a broader conversation about international custody disputes and the challenges that can arise when parents live or travel across multiple countries. Many people following the story say the situation highlights how complicated these cases can become, especially when questions of jurisdiction, travel, and parental rights overlap. For now, public opinion remains deeply divided. Some believe Gleb's reported evidence strengthens his case, while others feel Elena's response raises important legal questions that deserve careful consideration. But regardless of which side people support, one thing is clear. The final answer won't come from social media comments or celebrity headlines. It will come from the legal process itself. And with court-ordered mediation and a formal hearing already on the calendar, the next chapter in this dispute could prove to be the most important one yet. But after weeks of legal filings, competing allegations, and non-stop public debate, the biggest questions remain unanswered. Despite the headlines and the intense online discussion, the future of this custody dispute will ultimately be decided in court, not on social media. And with several important legal dates approaching, both Gleb Savchenko and Elena Samardinova are preparing for what could be the most significant stage of their battle yet. According to reports, the court has already ordered both parents to participate in mediation before the case moves further. That mediation session is scheduled for August 5th, giving both sides an opportunity to discuss the dispute with the help of a neutral mediator. In many family law cases, mediation is designed to encourage parents to reach an agreement without the need for a lengthy courtroom fight. Whether that will happen here remains uncertain, especially considering how strongly both sides have defended their position so far. If mediation does not resolve the dispute, the case is expected to move to a formal court hearing later in the month. At that stage, the judge will have an opportunity to review the evidence submitted by both parents, including Gleb's reported screenshots, legal declarations, and emergency custody request, along with Elena's response and the documents her legal team plans to present. Rather than relying on headlines or public opinion, the court will evaluate the evidence under the applicable law before making any decisions. One issue the court may have to address is jurisdiction, essentially deciding which country's legal system has the authority to handle different aspects of the custody dispute. Because the case involves California, Hong Kong, and the reported trip to Russia, there are multiple legal questions extending beyond a typical family court matter. Those jurisdictional issues could play a major role in determining how the case proceeds, and which court ultimately makes long-term custody decisions. Another important factor is Gleb's reported Hague Convention petition involving Zlata. International custody disputes often involve separate legal proceedings under the Hague Convention, meaning some aspect of the case may unfold independently from the California family court process. Exactly how those proceedings interact would depend on the courts involved and the legal arguments presented by both parties. For now, no final rulings have been made, and none of the competing allegations have been fully resolved. Both Gleb and Elena continue to stand by their respective positions, each believing the evidence supports their case. Until the courts complete their review, many of the claims being discussed publicly remain part of an ongoing legal dispute rather than established findings. One thing is certain, this case is far from over. As mediation, hearings, and possible international proceedings continue, every new filing could reshape the story. But beyond the legal arguments and media attention, the court's primary responsibility will remain the same: to determine what outcome is in the best interest of the children. And that's the decision everyone will ultimately be waiting for. In the end, this custody battle has become about far more than headlines, screenshots, or celebrity status. What began as a disagreement between former spouses has evolved into a complex international legal dispute involving competing claims, multiple jurisdictions, and deeply different accounts of what has taken place. With allegations surrounding international travel, emergency custody requests, and questions over where the children should legally reside, this case now stands as one of the most closely watched celebrity family law battles in recent months. At the center of the dispute are two parents who each believe they are acting in their children's best interests. Gleb Savchenko argues that his recently filed evidence, including the reported screenshots, location data, and messages, supports his request for emergency custody and demonstrates that important decisions were made without his knowledge or consent. Elena Semitonova, on the other hand, strongly rejects his version of events, maintains that Hong Kong is the proper legal jurisdiction, and argues that the court should follow the appropriate legal process before making any temporary decisions. As of now, no judge has issued a final ruling on the competing claims. The evidence submitted by both sides will be examined through mediation and future court hearings, where each parent will have the opportunity to present their case. Until those proceedings are complete, many of the allegations discussed publicly remain exactly that: allegations that have not yet been conclusively determined by the court. That's an important distinction to remember as the story continues to develop. Whatever the eventual outcome, this case highlights how complicated international custody disputes can become, especially when multiple countries, different legal systems, and conflicting accounts are involved. Behind every legal filing and every headline are real family decisions that will ultimately be resolved through courts rather than public opinion. As the legal process moves forward, the focus will remain on determining what serves the best interests of the children. Now we'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think the reported evidence could play a major role in the court's decision, or is it still too early to draw any conclusions before all the facts are presented? Share your opinion in the comments below. And if you enjoy in-depth coverage of the biggest Hollywood legal battles, celebrity news, and entertainment updates, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story.